completely, totally absurd. I mean, why are we defending or not defending this guy? This is our country, and it's totally being wrecked.
Well, what do you think of his?
And he's a completely, by the way, unlikable guy. And do we really need major gambling influence and guy that has played all over the world with governments so that he gets the casino licenses and charges up and down as really a core leader of our politics?
Well, let me ask you again, and I'm not attacking George Soros, but I don't think you like all the money.
It's about this wrecked system, so why don't we say it? Okay, why don't we...
Wait a second, but if you're going to attack this man for doing this...
I'm not attacking this man. I'm saying how pathetic it is that as grown-ups
get to my
sit
point.
around the table saying
no.
that this is what democracy is right now.
Well, we're not grown-ups sitting around the table saying this is what democracy is. These are the rules of the game. And
these
again,
rules
I don't want to
made by 5 Supreme Court justices.
Answer my question. Yeah. Who do you prefer? Whose approach do you prefer? George Soros, who's doing things legally, and as a citizen of the country, he can do it, and I have no problem with him doing it, setting up all of these organizations to shield his money and to funnel his money, and so it's harder to trace it back to who he's contributing to, or a guy who writes a check and says, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing.
I want the American people and all of us as grown-ups to say, first of all, this is completely rotten. Second, this is not
if you could answer my question.
It has nothing to do with these two. It has to do with the kind of country we have, Joe. And the fact of the matter is,
but you attacked one man. You attacked one man and saying he's a bad person. And no, you said he's a bad person, Jeffrey. You said we don't want him to
listen to me once.
Don't please. Well, you're yelling. Don't yell at me. Just answer my question.
Joe, you do this each time.
No, we don't. You want to attack one side.
I'm not attacking one side. I've been saying from the beginning that the system is rotten, and we should understand how rotten it is, and that what we're calling democracy is not democracy in this country. And now, how did it get this?
But you called this one man rotten.
Yes, but 5 Supreme Court.
Do you think he's rotten?
5 Supreme Court justices threw out 110 years of campaign law because Scalia and others said that corporations are people that have free speech of the First Amendment.
Right.
And this craziness, this idea that now corporate money without control can run America, is going to wreck the country for your children and my children. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Mr. Adelson. I'm not talking about any other individual. I'm talking about the fact that we have a list in the paper today of billionaires who are controlling our politics, driving our government into ruin, by the way, with systematic policies to favor themselves, and we call this our democracy right now. That's all I'm saying.
Would you call our democracy? Because you're acting like Citizens United was where we leapt off the cliff. The President of the United States got elected by raising close to $1 billion last election.
I wrote a book, as you know, this past year, bemoaning both sides, saying that this is a wrecked system. Our country is being wrecked by this. I'm not talking about Democrats or Republicans. I'm talking about the fact that what we call democracy is completely out of control. And by operating on standards, Joe, that no other democracy is.
So Stephen, how much? Let's let Stephen act.
Don't forget that Romney has said, corporations are people, and that's mainly because the only people he has are corporations.
So, again, another point of personal privilege here. I've got no problem with George Soros. I don't want anybody on the left or the right to go, Joe's attacking George Soros. I'm saying this system has, for a long time, has been corrupt. And there are just some people that would say, put it out on the table. George Soros plays by the rules.
So does Sheldon Adelson.
So does Sheldon Adelson. Plays by the rules. If you don't like it, change the rules.
Yes, let's change the rules.
Never said an attack on Syria would take place. Could be very soon or not so soon at all. In any event, the United States, under my administration, has done a great job of ridding the region of ISIS. Where is our thank you, America? Of the Center for Sustainable Development at Columbia University, economist Dr. Jeffrey Sachs. This is very different than just a war between two countries. This is as convoluted as it gets and could get out of control I don't think people might really conceptualize, maybe even not this president, how out of control this could escalate.
It's true, but I think we have to step back and not put this in partisan terms. This is a U.S. mistake that started 7 years ago. And I remember the day on your show when President Obama said, Assad must go. And I looked at you and Joe and I said, huh? How's he going to do that? Where's the policy for that?
Right. And
we know they sent in the CIA to overthrow Assad. The CIA and Saudi Arabia together in covert operations tried to overthrow Assad. It was a disaster. Eventually it brought in both ISIS as a splinter group to the jihadists that went in. It also brought in Russia. So we have been digging deeper and deeper and deeper. What we should do now is get out and not continue to throw missiles, not have a confrontation with Russia. 7 years has been a disaster under Obama, continuing under Trump. This is what I would call the permanent state. This is the CIA, this is Pentagon, wanting to keep Iran and Russia out of Syria, but no way to do that. And so we have made a proxy war in Syria. It's killed 500,000 people, displaced 10 million, and I'll say predictably so, because I predicted it 7 years ago that there was no way to do this and that it would make a complete chaos. So what I would plead to President Trump is get out. Like his instinct told him, by the way. That was his instinct. Right. But then all the establishment, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Pentagon, everybody said, no, no, that's irresponsible. But his instinct is right. Get out. We've done enough damage, 7 years. And now we really risk a confrontation with Russia. I don't think it's attractive, but I think we have to understand how this happened. This happened because of us. These 600,000 are not just incidental. We started a war to overthrow a regime. It was covert. It was Timber Sycamore. People can look it up, the CIA operation, together with Saudi Arabia. Still it's shrouded in secrecy, which is part of the problem in our country. A major war effort shrouded in secrecy, never debated by Congress, never explained to the American people, signed by President Obama, never explained. And this created chaos. And so just throwing more missiles in right now is not a response.
My only concern...
We need to go, it's, by the way, not to walk away, to go to the UN Security Council, as the Admiral says, to agree with Russia on a strategy for ending the fight. But ending the fight means that we stop trying to overthrow a government, that we stop trying to support rebels who are committed to overthrowing the government. That is where this war continues, because we, to this day, back rebels that are trying to overthrow a government contrary to international law, contrary to the UN Charter, contrary to common sense, contrary to practical path. We can't do it. And it's just creating ongoing crisis to the extent of facing an imminent confrontation with Russia. We started helping with other countries to fund this rebellion. That's what.
How did we do that? Because we hear from John McCain and others that we actually haven't even begun to support the Syrian resistance.
That's not the case. There has been a group called the Friends of Syria group, which has met several times, the foreign ministers. They have given active support. The United States support isn't what McCain would like. Right. He wants an even bigger war.
Wants more, right.
But we've already gotten into this for more than a year and a half.
And Hillary was a part of that process.
Of course she was. And that's why this has already escalated so much. I think the American people are just waking up to the fact we're in that war too. That's their biggest problem, actually. We are in that war. It was a huge mistake to get into it. They thought it would be another one of these quick deals. Assad would go and everything would be fine. But what has happened is we have funded a growing, massive killing field, basically, on both sides. Not just the U.S. side, but this is why there are 100,000 deaths. Not because Assad is just killing his own people, but because we are supporting a rebellion with Gulf countries.
So Robert Gibbs, has this been going on for over a year or so?
I gotta tell you, that's the most curious roundup of what's happened in Syria that I've heard in 2 years. That somehow, did you just say we're responsible for 100,000 Syrians that are dead?
No, I didn't say that. I said that we have
You
been...
did. You're walking it back now.
Robert, listen to what I said. I said that we have helped to stoke a rebellion that has led to killings on both sides. And so we have built up...
I missed the transition where you didn't blame the United States for somehow the actions of Bashar al-Assad, who's killed these people, including using chemical weapons, and killed 500 kids while they slept.
Yeah, but Robert, why did we get into somebody else's war? Undeclared, without the United States people even knowing about it, and against international law.
I guess I'm just hung up on the fact that the United States killed 100,000 people in Syria.
I did not say that. Let me say it again. We have, together with...
Maybe the third time will be the charm.
Okay, then I'll say it again, Robert. Together with Gulf countries, the U.S. has been supporting a military rebellion in Syria for a year and a half, and together with those countries has been funding logistics, salaries, and arms flows that have led to a massive escalation of violence. This is not simply Assad killing his people. This is a war that the U.S. has been supporting because we thought that we could knock out Assad in another U.S.-led regime change, and it didn't work.